Hey there, awesome viewers. Welcome back to Manhwa Empire Recap. Before we dive into today's recap, we want to hear from you. Drop your favorite genre of manhwa or manga in the comments below, and let us know where you're watching from. Your feedback helps us bring you the content you love. Now, let's jump into today's recap and explore the incredible stories we have for you.
One night, deep in a tranquil forest, there's this sudden burst of glow. The intense glow in the woods caught the attention of a small rabbit, illuminating its path in the darkest parts of the forest. Mesmerized, the bunny abandoned caution and followed the light. The persistent brightness of the light gave the impression that something extraordinary was being born in the heart of the forest that very night. Out of nowhere, a quirky little tree sprouted up in the woods. But it was no ordinary tree, as this one had a face smack dab in the middle of its trunk. With its eyes glowing brightly, the little tree seemed to undergo its final transformation. However, as it tried to speak, it started coughing uncontrollably, almost choking on its own branches. The poor tree, coughing and panicking, glanced around and realized it wasn't in familiar surroundings. It must have wondered how on earth it ended up in the wilds of the forest, far from its cozy home. In a frenzy, the tree wiggled its trunk, trying to get a good look at its own branches. To its shock, it found that its once slender strands had transformed into thick, leafy locks. The tree, still trying to make sense of it all, figured it must be caught up in some crazy dream brought on by stress and exhaustion. It closed its eyes, hoping that when it opened them again, it would be back to its human self. But no matter how many times it squeezed its eyes shut, that tree face planted back into the reality of being a tree. Panic set in as it grappled with the unexpected transformation, wondering how and why this had happened to it. The tree racked its leafy brain, trying to rewind to the moments before it became a tree. And then, like a bolt from the blue, he remembered sipping water at home and choking on it. The tree's realization hit hard that he was reincarnated as a tree, but not in some cool fantasy novel setting. It scratched its furry head, pondering how the tree would manage one-handed pull-ups when, well, it didn't have any hands as a tree. The ex-human pondered if this tree gig was payback for past sins, feeling pretty down about it. But then, through the tears, they started seeing the perks of being a tree. He marveled at the fact that despite lacking eyes, they had a panoramic view of everything around them. The view of the canyons was mind-blowing, like being stuck in a mountain paradise. He was blown away by the fact that, despite being a tree, they still had human-like senses, especially when it came to visuals. But what really amazed them was the sense of smell, but more like a supercharged feeling. With over 50 branches, the tree-human duo could only wiggle one. Trying to move the rest felt like dealing with a bunch of numb limbs. He felt majorly frustrated, like sitting too long and getting all stiff. On top of that, he was getting anxious hearing the wild animals roaring around, realizing he couldn't resist if things got hairy. Adding to his anxiety, he realized that even a single woodpecker could spell the end for him as a tree. Looking up, he noticed a plane soaring in the sky, a stark reminder that he wasn't in some fantasy realm. This sight led him to a conclusion that he might still be in the same timeline as when he was a human. Trying to adjust to his new reality, he found himself increasingly annoyed by the buzzing bees flitting around him. Their persistent presence got on his nerves so much that he couldn't help but swat at them. His reaction was lightning fast, swatting the bees so swiftly that they couldn't escape his wrath. Blushing with surprise, he noted his newfound agility, quickly dispatching the bees with a double whammy. His shock deepened when a system status window suddenly appeared, announcing that he had earned 0.2 evolution points. The system revealed his name as Yuziu, with a body categorized as a mutant willow and a lifespan of 1 to 20 years. Ziyu was taken aback that even as a tree, he was still recognized by his human name. Yuziu checked the details and saw that he had earned 0.1 evolution points for eliminating a bee and another 0.1 for basking in sunlight. However, he realized that only his 50 branches could be strengthened, made him decided to pace himself and take a gradual approach to become stronger. After agreeing to use his evolution points, Ziyu felt a strange, eerie sensation coursing through his body. Much to his surprise, this sensation allowed him to move 3 of his branches. Ziyu was ecstatic about being able to use his 3 branches like arms. He was having a blast as a tree and eagerly looked forward to getting even stronger. Feeling confident with his newfound abilities, Ziyu thought he had a metal fist and was ready for anything. Spotting a beehive, he saw it as a perfect opportunity to put his skills to use. Ziyu wasted no time and swiftly whipped off the beehive, aiming to gain more evolution points. The night was filled with his noisy efforts as he whipped the bees and racked up a significant amount of points. After half a month of consistent effort, Ziyu achieved the ability to move all of his branches. With his branches now strengthened, he felt like a super brave tree, ready to take on whatever challenges came his way. Ziyu, eager to test his newfound strength, spotted a big rock in front of him and decided to put his abilities to the test. He fused all of his branches together, forming a massive drill-like structure. Ziyu proudly named his attack move the Whirlwind Tornado Charge. Ziyu not only made his branches stronger, but also increased their speed to match that of a cheetah. When he unleashed his attack on the rock, it was so powerful and destructive that it stirred up dust on the ground. Despite his branches not physically touching the rock, the impact of Ziyu's attack was immense. Ziyu was left speechless, amazed at the level of strength he had attained and the power he wielded. Ziyu remained astonished by the fact that he nearly obliterated the entire rock without even making physical contact. Realizing the potential of his attack pattern, he saw it as a killer move capable of destroying objects through airwaves alone. Ziyu thought he could trick targets with his attack and land a knockout blow in one hit. Impressed with his growth and newfound abilities, he felt far from an ordinary tree. Ziyu noticed his roots were constantly soaking up energy from the soil. This realization led him to believe that he could become significantly stronger without actively doing much. Ziyu appreciated his longer lifespan as a tree, knowing he wouldn't suffer sickness or fatigue like humans do. He also anticipated instant growth thanks to the evolution points and numbers he had accumulated. Ziyu visualized himself evolving into an existence akin to the world tree, a lofty aspiration for his future. Ziyu thought it was cool that he didn't have to worry about school or work anymore, allowing him to focus on becoming a tree deity. However, his thoughts were interrupted by the chirping of birds perched on top of his head. It seems that Ziyu now has little baby birdies as his companions. A few days ago, Ziyu broke off a branch that was blocking his sunlight, which caused a bird nest to fall and land on top of him. Despite feeling a bit annoyed by the baby birds dripping on him, he decided to let it slide. Ziyu identified the birds on top of him as peregrine falcons, a medium-sized raptor species. He recalled that these birds would grow to 50 centimeters in size with a wingspan of nearly 1 meter once they reached adulthood. Ziyu was terrified at the thought that his neighboring birds would be faster than a cheetah once they grew up. However, he also noticed changes in the world that made him certain there are other weird entities like him somewhere out there. For now, the only downside Ziyu faced was his lack of aerial capabilities as a tree. However, he swore to make the best of it since he knew he couldn't change his current form. Ziyu realized that living in a dangerous world with his new form might be challenging. But he made a promise to himself to do his best to survive and grow stronger. Ziyu has quite the adventure ahead of him with creatures like the wind wolves roaming the forest. There were also an army of giant ants in the mix too. From wind wolves to an army of giant ants and even a spider queen, which is the size of a mountain. While some animals evolve and gain new abilities, others like the humble squirrel remain unchanged. However, it's unfortunate that cute creatures like squirrels get disturbed by giant beings. The squirrel was caught off guard as it saw a gigantic hand out of nowhere. In Ziyu's world, gorillas have been transformed into massive creatures reminiscent of King Kong. Alongside these giants, some animals have evolved into swift and fast creatures. It moved at such incredible speeds that only their marks were visible in a blink. It turns out, these were snakes that has evolved with sharp axe-like weapons on their bodies, turning them into formidable and dangerous creatures. The snakes not only look poisonous, but also have a deadly weapon, making them formidable opponents. As a result, many potential prey animals are forced to flee due to the disturbances caused by these gigantic and dangerous creatures in the forest. The little bunny attempted to escape from another entity that was chasing it, unaware that Ziyu was the one hunting it using his branch. In a swift move, Ziyu successfully caught the bunny, showcasing his hunting skills in the forest. Ziyu earned another 0.6 evolution points by successfully hunting the rabbit. This made him realize that he hadn't engaged in hunting as part of his training for a while. Ziyu decided to feed the rabbit he hunted to his bird friends, recognizing the circle of life in the wilderness. The hungry birds wasted no time and immediately finished every bit of the rabbit. Ziyu couldn't shake off his horror at witnessing the rawness of nature. However, his focus shifted when the system notified him that he had gained a whole 1 point for an evolution point. Ziyu shifted his focus to enhancing his roots now that all of his branches were strengthened. According to the system, he needed to complete 9 evolution points for his roots and only 1 point for his trunk. Ziyu finds it a bit challenging to earn a whole number of evolution points, but he understands the importance of having strong roots. He envisions himself being wild, free, and running if he strengthens all of his roots and uses them like real feet. Without hesitation, Ziyu used 1 point of his evolution points to give one of his roots senses. However, he experienced significant pain, but it will assure him that he had gained another sense in that part of his body. He was in such deep pain that he kept yelling and screeching in the middle of the forest. Even the birds were surprised as Ziyu kept rocking his head back and forth. After all the ruckus he caused, dust was disturbed on the ground as he caught his breath. The sensation he experienced was akin to getting drilled by an electric drill, a result of using 1 point of his evolution points. As Ziyu freely moved his root, he couldn't help but be impressed by how thick and impressive it looked. To him, it resembled a black python, both in length and the sense of power it exuded. But Ziyu was itching to test his limits as he could move most of his body parts except the trunk. Determined to test his limits, he attempted to move his trunk forcefully. He attempted to make his trunk rise, but it felt like it was glued tightly to the soil, refusing to budge. Since he tried to force it, Ziyu was in deep pain that he began saying a lot of words in Latin. Ziyu realized that his own trunk was actually his tree schlong. He kept trembling as he realized that his reckless experiment was more painful than awakening a part of his body. However, this made Ziyu also realize that his trunk was quite sensitive and thought of using his 8 unfortified roots to protect the trunk. And as for the root he awakened, Ziyu thought of using it as a hidden weapon. Ziyu decided to conceal this root in the soil, keeping it ready for use when the time was right. Ziyu decided to get wise since he needed to save more evolution points in order to enhance more of his body parts. All of a sudden, Ziyu caught something unusual from the bushes. Ziyu activated his battle mode, preparing himself for whatever might emerge from the undergrowth. As Ziyu cautiously approached the bushes, he discovered that the unusual noise was coming from a severely wounded fox. Despite expecting something more menacing, he was taken aback to find such a cute creature before him. He unsure whether to touch it or not, but the realization that the fox was unconscious made him nervous. Ziyu stared at the fox's blackened wound, wondering if it meant poison and if he could score evolution points from dealing with it. Just as Ziyu was pondering his next move, the system popped up with an offer to heal the fox with a branch, but lose 1 evolution point. Ziyu's cleverness sparked a plan to heal the fox with his branch, then take it out to gain evolution points. Feeling quite smart, he started applying his healing magic to the fox, ready to execute his strategy. The healing magic dripped onto the fox's wound, immediately casting a green aura, a sign of its effective mending. Ziyu watched in awe, feeling like a living Chinese physician with such powers at his command. The fox, now healed, sprang to its feet, surprising Ziyu with its swift recovery. His excitement surged as he anticipated the evolution points he might gain from eliminating the fox. However, Ziyu's attention shifted as he got captivated by the fox's adorable and beautiful eyes. Taken by the fox's charm, stopped his attack, letting the fox brush its body against his tree. Ziyu tried to be all cool, acting like the fox's cuteness didn't faze him one bit. However, the fox, despite Ziyu's tough act, showed genuine gratitude for being saved. Ziyu's tough facade crumbled as he couldn't resist staring at the fox, his heart melting at its adorable and friendly demeanor. Ziyu gave in to the fox's charm completely, lifting and hugging it tightly despite the evolution points he lost. He couldn't help but admire the fox's mesmerizing red eyes, like precious jewels, and its incredibly soft fur. But all of a sudden, the bright glow from the fox caught Ziyu completely off guard. The system clarified that the fox's radiant glow signaled its evolution. The fox, now named the mutant red fox, gained a 20-year lifespan and a unique ability called Eye of Charm due to Ziyu's healing magic. Ziyu was astonished as the once cute little fox grew bigger, its fur resembling flames in appearance. Ziyu took a moment to review the mutant red fox's status, noting its level 4 entry rank. Intrigued, he decided to check his own status window to see his entry level. Ziyu took a moment to reflect on his own progress, realizing he had advanced significantly from his previous level 9 status. While impressed by the fox's achievement of reaching level 4, he felt pretty good knowing he was still ahead in the game. Ziyu grasped the significance of comprehending entry levels and the need for caution in using his power. With his power to boost ranks, he knew he had to play it smart to avoid accidentally making enemies stronger or stumbling into fights he couldn't handle. Ziyu felt optimistic about his growth as a tree, believing it was leading to a fulfilling life. Regarding the fox, he pondered if humans might be hunting it for its stunning fur. Ziyu observed the scars on the fox's wounds, resembling marks from arrows, which saddened him about human cruelty. Despite his feelings, he understood the need to remain cautious and low profile until he grew stronger. Ziyu was well aware that if luck turned against him, humans might cut him down, given his vulnerability to advanced weapons like machine guns or missiles. Suddenly, the fox sensed approaching humans and darted away. Ziyu was surprised when he noticed some human beings nearby. It turns out, 2 lovely girls had visited the forest with the intention of having a wholesome picnic. Ziyu panicked and quickly hid his face from the humans. Ziyu started to feel a bit anxious about the presence of the 2 girls visiting the forest. It turns out, the 2 girls had come to the forest to pay respects to their late father. Meanwhile, Ziyu was doing his best to stay hidden and remain unnoticed. Ziyu found himself confused as the girls approached him, discussing their father. As the sun began to set, the girls set up the food they had brought with them. The girls set up praying joss candles and beautiful fruits as a mark of respect for their father. With sincere prayers, they wished for a peaceful afterlife for him. Ziyu felt unsettled upon realizing that the girl's father was buried beneath his roots. Despite this, he stayed calm and composed, allowing the girls to pray for their deceased loved one. After some time, the younger sister quickly grabbed an apple after their prayers, convinced that their father wouldn't let her go hungry. Meanwhile, Ziyu was eager for the girls to leave as he had been hiding within his tree form for quite some time. The sisters departed, with the younger one excitedly urging her older sister to join her for a bath in the river. Ziyu cautiously took a peek to confirm that the sisters had indeed left and were no longer near him. The younger sister eagerly called for her older sibling to join her in the lake. The older sister responded by removing her clothes and stepping into the warm, comforting water. Despite the soothing and relaxing water, the older sister appeared to be making an effort to remain vigilant and not let her guard down. As the 2 sisters enjoyed their fun bathe in the lake, Ziyu, like many men, felt eager to catch a glimpse of the 2 women bathing in the lake. However, he became frustrated with nature for obstructing his view. Ziyu attempted a reckless move, deciding to shift slightly. He raised his trunk from the soil in an attempt to get a better view. But this only resulted in deep pain, feeling like a form of karma for his intrusive thoughts. "That night," he cried, grappling with feelings of incompetence. Meanwhile, the fox settled down beside Ziyu as the night progressed. The sisters bid farewell after their bath and returned home. Ziyu, feeling stressed from the incident, hoped that the sisters wouldn't come back again. Given that their father was buried under Ziyu's roots, it was likely that the sisters would return for another visit. Despite the presence of strange creatures in the forest, the sisters walked away unharmed. Another peaceful week passed in the canyon, although it was home to numerous dangerous creatures. And among the dangerous creatures in the canyon were falcons. However, these falcons aren't the typical birds in the textbooks, as they were able to combine their powers to create a formidable force. Currently, they were locked in battle with an eagle, attacking it collectively with their combined strength. But this eagle seemed to be out of the ordinary as well, as it has feathers used specifically for protection. Yes, this eagle, like other evolved animals in the canyon, had sharp beaks and bodies as tough as alloy. The eagle unleashed its powerful screech, an ability so intense that it could penetrate an eardrum with its force. The eagle's powerful screech sent intense sound waves that affected the falcons deeply. Sensing an opportunity amid the chaos, the fox joined the battle. The eagle's vigilance paid off as it quickly detected the fox approaching from its blind spot. With swift reflexes, the eagle used its claws to grab the fox by the neck, ensuring it couldn't resist. The intense struggle in the sky resulted in the fox being severely injured as they both fell. The eagle, filled with excitement, prepared to deliver its final blow to the vulnerable fox. The eagle abruptly stopped its attack on the vulnerable fox, sensing a dark aura nearby. Upon looking up, it saw Ziyu with glowing branches, prepared to avenge his injured fox friend. The eagle switched its attention to Ziyu, realizing it had just tangled with someone way out of its league. The eagle learned the hard way about Ziyu's strength when it recklessly engaged. With a single hit, Ziyu successfully eliminated the level 7 mutated golden eagle. After defeating the eagle, Ziyu received a substantial reward of 70 evolution points. Being the generous guy he is, he shared some of his life essence with his falcon buddies, making them even bigger. Ziyu praised the fox for doing a hard work of battling the eagle. He expressed relief at finally catching the eagle that had been circling and trying to sneak up on them all week. This made Ziyu realize he needed to hide his aura to avoid attracting predators. He also knew that encountering a creature with a double level would likely spell trouble for him. Ziyu finally understood the importance of becoming stronger to face upcoming battles. He was fully aware of the powerful entities and creatures in the canyon that could easily defeat him with just one strike. Ziyu believed in the importance of making his companions, including the fox and the falcons, stronger alongside himself. With his 70 evolution points, he was confident that he could enhance his friend's strength as well. Ziyu was stoked that his pals, the falcons, leveled up to 3, and the fox reached level 4. He's excited for their future growth beyond these levels. As a thank you for their hard work in taking down the eagle, Ziyu hooked them up with some essence of life from his tree branch. After Ziyu treated his friends with the essence of life, their power intensified even more. As they settled into their spots, a giant creature attempted to ambush their location. Ziyu was taken by surprise when the ambush happened so quickly. Sadly, the giant creature managed to damage some of his branches and roots during the attack. It turns out, the one who made a dramatic entrance was a snake that has axe on its head as a weapon. The giant snake mercilessly grabbed half of Ziyu's body as if claiming him as its trophy. Ziyu felt disheartened to find that only 24 of his branches were available for use after the ambush. He considered himself unlucky, especially since he hadn't anticipated the attack after his recent victory. The giant snake not only appeared physically strong, but also emitted an eerie aura. Ziyu realized he needed to study the snake to figure out how to defeat it. Ziyu summoned his status window, which revealed that the snake was a tomahawk snake at level 9, evolved with an axe-like tail capable of cutting through anything. Ziyu recognized the snake as his nemesis, especially given its axe-like weapon, which posed a significant threat to him as a tree. Meanwhile, his friend, the red fox, showed bravery and a willingness to protect Ziyu from the snake's danger. But Ziyu couldn't shake off the worry about what might happen to his friend if the snake got too close. But the snake seemed to purposefully target at Ziyu's branches, likely aiming to absorb their energy and enhance its own power. As the snake puts the branches in its mouth, Ziyu knew it'd be a big problem if the snake powered up by munching on his branches. And sure enough, as it ate them, its eyes widened like it was about to go berserk any second. The snake was ready to wreak havoc, lifting its axe-like tail menacingly. But Ziyu quickly told his friends to hang back, promising to take care of the snake on his own. The snake moved with incredible speed, causing destruction in the blink of an eye. However, just as it was feeling confident, it suddenly felt a force stopping its attack. Ziyu surprised everyone by stepping up to the front lines, using his roots to block the snake's attack. Despite successfully stopping the attack, Ziyu couldn't ignore the fact that the snake still wielded a formidable force. Ziyu wanted to make it clear to the snake that it was facing an opponent on the same level, level 9, and shouldn't underestimate him. The snake was even more surprised when it realized that Ziyu had more tricks. It turns out, Ziyu activated 3 out of his 9 roots during the confrontation with the snake. Ziyu left the snake completely defenseless as it was ensnared by his roots. He then used some of his points to enhance his roots, ensuring he would be the stronger one in the battle. Ziyu activated all 9 of his roots, causing them to rise from the ground. He aimed for the snake's vulnerable spot, which was 7 inches below its head. Ziyu prepared to launch his attack, aiming to give the snake a beating to remind it that it was on his turf. With a powerful punch to the snake's abdomen, Ziyu inflicted deep agony upon the creature. The force of Ziyu's attack was so intense that it caused the snake to cough up blood. Despite this, Ziyu remained unfazed, staying focused on the damage he had dealt to his opponent. However, he was dismayed as his attack didn't have the impact he expected. He started overthinking why his punches weren't as strong as he hoped. Despite Ziyu's initial attack appearing weak, the snake seemed to understand that Ziyu must not be underestimated. The snake's readiness for round 2 got Ziyu thinking that he shouldn't come off as weak. Ziyu, determined to establish dominance, unleashed a fearsome aura that radiated power and authority. However, the snake recognized the need to conserve its energy and not overextend itself in the confrontation. The snake must have sensed it was outgunned because it slithered away, conceding the fight. Ziyu, finally able to let his guard down, gathered his branches, feeling a wave of relief wash over him as the threat disappeared. However, Ziyu was pretty bummed out about how today's showdown didn't declare a winner. It left him feeling anxious, especially with the serious injuries he picked up and thought it might spell the end for him. Ziyu couldn't help but stare at the snake's trails, realizing how different their sizes were. After the fight, the falcon and the fox came up to him, but he reassured them that he was okay. Ziyu was sure the snake would return despite driving it off in battle. This experience sparked self-hatred as he confronted his perceived weakness head-on. Ziyu anticipated the snake's return not for a rematch, but because it had tasted his energy through his tree branch. This situation posed an extra challenge as his core nearly tore apart due to his emphasis on strengthening his roots. And all of a sudden, the system notification popped up for Ziyu, informing him that he had enough points to ascend to the first evolution. It caught him off guard, but also brought a sense of relief, realizing that this upgrade was exactly what he needed at this juncture. Ziyu was amazed at the prospect of stages awaiting him after enhancing himself as a tree. He wished for significant strength improvements, determined to avoid inconvenient situations in the future. Ziyu started enhancing himself with evolution points, and even his friends, the falcon and the fox, felt the effects of his upgrades. The forest shimmered with brightness that day as Ziyu focused on boosting his strength. Ziyu's branches became more beautiful, longer, and thicker as he evolved. Throughout this transformation, the loyal fox stood steadfastly by his side. After the enhancement, Ziyu's trunks became exceptionally sturdy, and his facial cracks disappeared. Additionally, his loyal friend the fox leveled up to level 7. Ziyu's 8 falcon companions also reached level 5 due to his enhancement. He found it impressive that his friend's growth was tied to his own, showcasing the impact of his progress on those around him. Ziyu wasted no time and instructed his falcon companions to search for the snake that had caused them trouble. The falcons immediately took off, showing no hesitation in carrying out Ziyu's command. Ziyu marveled at the incredible speed of his falcon friends, comparing their swiftness to bullets as they soared. He credited this enhancement to the evolution system, believing that his falcons were now comparable to a mutated golden eagle. But Ziyu also admired his friend, the fox, for its transformation. Once adorable, it had now grown fiercer, with fur that resembled a magnificent fire. Ziyu felt confident that the fox's newfound energy would deter anyone from causing trouble. He then checked his status window, eager to see if he had gained any new skills from the recent enhancements. But all of a sudden, their tranquility was shattered by the sound of humans screaming for help in the forest. It turns out, the 2 girls who had explored the forest earlier were now the ones in distress, chased by evolved animals. It seemed they had stumbled into significant trouble. Ziyu's soul stirred as he recognized the girls in the distance. The situation became even more daunting as the girls were not just being chased by one type of animal, but by a variety of creatures. The 2 sisters were in a state of panic, clueless about why they were being pursued. Things turned even more terrifying as the evolved hippos, rhinos, and pigs displayed aggressive behavior, their huge mouths poised to strike at the girls. Ziyu recognized that his energy was like an elixir to the animals, drawing them to him. However, he refused to see himself as just a target, feeling ready to confront and fight against them. The other animals were aggressive and bloodthirsty, seemingly eager to consume Ziyu's essence. Meanwhile, the girls were teetering on the edge of tears as the Ramo pig approached dangerously close to them. But the only thing they could do was scream at the top of their lungs. However, the sudden appearance of another animal caught everyone's attention. The unexpected arrival of these animals startled the girls as they stumbled to the ground. They wondered about the flashy entrance all about. As the dust settled, they saw Ziyu's friend, the fox, standing before them, ready to shield and protect the girls. The fox glanced back to ensure the girls' safety. But its intense and fierce appearance only added to the girls' fear, shaking them to their core. The animals paused in their advance, seemingly recognizing that the fox was not to be trifled with. However, the situation grew more daunting for them as the falcons also joined the scene. The fox and the falcons worked together to take down many berserk animals, creating a powerful duo. The girls were amazed and a bit intimidated, feeling like they had witnessed an animal war. But they also wondered if the fox and the falcons were on their side. The fox and the falcons exuded such an intimidating presence that the remaining animals hesitated to approach. Sensing the moment, Ziyu gathered his friends and declared his intent to show the animals that he was not someone to be underestimated. The girls turned back, curious to see who was speaking and taking charge of the situation. Ziyu wasted no time, commanding his roots to rise from the ground in a display of power. His determination was clear as he aimed to show the other animals that he was the true threat in this encounter. The sight of thick roots emerging from the ground left some animals stunned, aware of the imminent danger they faced. Ziyu, in his own dramatic fashion, told them he'd be clearing out quite a few of them that day. However, the girls were utterly shocked to see Ziyu, a talking and strong tree. He then boldly challenged the animals to come closer, which led to a chaotic scene as all the animals stampeded toward him at once. Ziyu didn't hesitate to fight back against the animals, taking them on single-handedly. He stayed alert, particularly watching out for the ones who dared to get too close. Ziyu swiftly took down all the deadly animals without hesitation. Ziyu aimed to assert his dominance, sending a clear message to the animals that once they crossed into his territory, there was no turning back. The animals were fixated on consuming Ziyu's essence, their minds blank and reckless in their pursuit. However, this single-mindedness ultimately led to their downfall. From the smallest creatures to the largest, every animal desired to taste Ziyu's essence, but instead they encountered his wrath. Among all the creatures, there was a cheeky bat that managed to evade Ziyu's roots and escape his grasp. The mutated bat utilized its sound wave noise ability as a weapon, showcasing its speed. However, like the other reckless animals, it too met a similar fate in its encounter with Ziyu. Some animals, such as the bull, attempted to use their tough bodies to push through Ziyu's defenses. The bull skillfully used its horn to avoid the roots coming towards it. It showed persistence as it continued to push forward without holding back. Ziyu remained undeterred despite the bull's efforts to resist his strong roots. Eventually, the bull was defeated as Ziyu wrapped its roots around it, capturing the bull. Ziyu proved his dominance by defeating even the fastest animals, including birds that were known for their speed. Despite their agility, they were no match for Ziyu's power and were caught defenseless. Ziyu fulfilled his promise to anyone who dared oppose him, ensuring that none escaped his grasp. He emerged victorious, defeating all the animals either through physical force or suffocation. That night, all the berserking animals ended up looking like Christmas ornaments. Ziyu felt a sense of relief, knowing that they had emerged victorious from the battle and that no one had been harmed. After all that chaos, Ziyu was left scratching his head, wondering how to handle the two girls who had passed out from shock. Ziyu was freaking out, imagining the military swooping in if the girls were found missing. And he dreaded the idea of ending up in a botanical garden, with kids poking fun at him, calling him an ugly tree. Ziyu wondered how he could avoid finding himself in such flashy and potentially embarrassing situations in the future. After minutes of pondering that night, the girls finally woke up from their shock-induced unconsciousness. The girls' fear escalated when they saw Ziyu. resembling a monster tree to them. As Ziyu extended his roots, they feared they were about to be attacked. Ziyu surprised the girls by using his roots to write on the floor, pretending to be their late father. This unexpected action made the girls' expressions turn eerie. Ziyu felt nervous as the girls were not convinced by his attempt to act like their late father turning into a willow. He realized he needed a new strategy since the girls weren't buying his act. During the tense moment, the younger sister challenged Ziyu by asking if he was truly their father. He should know her name and her secret. Fortunately, Ziyu had a system that revealed the younger sister was Hizioling, and the older sister was Hizioking, both 14 years old. Ziyu revealed Xioling's secret crush, Niu, by writing the name on the ground. Xiaoling couldn't help but scream out of embarrassment at being exposed in front of her sister. Xiaoking questioned her younger sister, knowing that Niu was their neighbor. Xiaoling got teary-eyed because she had only shared her secret crush with their father. While the girls were asleep, Ziyu decided to craft hairpins from his branches. Ziyu extended the hairpins he crafted to the girls as a gesture of kindness. He didn't know why he suddenly thought of crafting them, but he felt it was important to make the gesture to show his goodwill. However, Ziyu felt a deep connection with the girl's late father because he was buried under his roots. This connection triggered a flashback of the late father's final moments, calling for Xiaoking on his deathbed. The late father apologized to Xiaoking for the burden of taking care of their grandpa and Xiaoling. Ziyu developed a theory that since the late father was buried under his roots, their souls might have fused in some way. Ziyu gently patted Xiaoking's head as she shared her struggles of dropping out of school to take care of the household. He expressed gratitude to Xiaoking for sharing her story and giving him insight into her hard work and dedication. Xiaoking couldn't hold back her tears. It was like she'd been waiting forever for this kind of comfort. Ziyu, even though he was just playing a role, ended up really caring for the girls that night. Later on, everyone settled in on Ziyu's turf while the falcons and the fox stood guard. The sisters stayed, and Xiaoking shared with Ziyu some of the mysteries of the world, like a big cruise ship being swallowed by the ocean and planes disappearing without a trace. Xiaoking shared that the world was in turmoil due to an unknown spiritual power, often referred to as magic, causing mutations in animals. This revelation surprised Ziyu, who hadn't realized that these changes were occurring beyond their forest. Xiaoking was skeptical at first, thinking the news sounded like a fantasy. However, after witnessing Ziyu, a tree with human-like qualities, she felt that she had enough evidence to believe in the mysteries of the world. Ziyu couldn't help but blush as Xiaoling looked pretty sitting beside him. Ziyu was startled when he saw Xiaoling playing with the wolves they had caught, offering them fresh meat. However, the wolves appeared more interested in Xiaoling herself than the food she was offering. Xiaoling felt saddened as she had hoped the wolves would respond more friendly to her gesture. However, the fox sneaked up behind her and glared at the wolves, reminding them to behave properly. The wolves were completely intimidated, not daring to even bark at Xiaoling. She turned to the fox and gave it a praise, impressed that the wolves obediently ate the meat she offered. However, Ziyu felt a bit stressed as Xiaoling teased the wolves, but he was relieved knowing the fox was keeping an eye on things. Apart from the wolves, Ziyu also had to deal with some troublesome animals like monkeys and a white crane. And what's more surprising was the cow, which had been persistent earlier, was now completely tamed, and Xiaoking even felt comfortable lying on it. However, Ziyu found the most troublesome animal he had caught to be one resembling a capybara that kept screaming all night. But before dealing with the animals he had caught, Ziyu believed he still had some tasks to do. He opened his status window and found that his lifespan had extended to 200 years after reaching the first order level. Ziyu's branches and roots were fully developed, which was already pretty cool, but the upgradable aspect made it even more awesome. Plus, he gained the regeneration talent as his innate skill, just like your typical plant's ability to regenerate. Ziyu's main duties remained unchanged, like absorbing energy from sunlight and earning evolution points by eliminating deadly creatures. But now he had a new trick up his sleeve, the ability to produce dense fog that could cover kilometers and had a hallucinogenic effect, perfect for disorienting enemies. Ziyu's progress was impressive, and he felt like he was on a path towards a new level of enhancement. Ziyu thought of leveling up his skills now that he's hit First Order status. He's psyched about his stash of 149 evolution points, seeing them as a ticket to leveling up big time. As Ziyu looked at the dense fog and hallucinogenic skills he has, he was impressed, seeing them as crucial for his future growth. When the system offered to enhance these skills with 20 evolution points each, Ziyu eagerly agreed without hesitation. Based on Ziyu's understanding, this ability was uncommon among plants and stimulated nerves to induce hallucinations. He then enhanced his hallucinogenic ability, releasing a thick fog that covered his entire turf. Ziyu admitted that if he were still human, he would have recklessly used the abilities together. While he wanted to take revenge on the snake that terrorized them, he knew he had to be careful not to draw unwanted attention. Ziyu was fired up, swearing that if he ever crossed paths with the snake again, they would have an intense rematch. The fog was so thick that Xiaoling and the fox started freaking out as they couldn't see Ziyu anywhere. But he quickly reassured them by calling their names, letting them know they weren't lost. As night fell, Ziyu told the fox to lead Xiaoling and the other girl home through the mountains. Before they set off, he cautioned them not to reveal his existence to anyone, fearing government interference. After they bid farewell, the sisters Xiaoling and Xiaoking rode on the fox as they headed home after saying goodbye to Ziyu. But Xiaoling couldn't shake off the wild adventures they had, from being chased by mutated animals to riding a friendly fox. Even Xiaoking couldn't deny how much she loved riding the fox, feeling the wind rush by, as well as the fox, who was thrilled to see the girls having a blast as they raced through the night. As the girls headed home, Ziyu made a decision that it was time for his second enhancement. He upgraded 50 branches for 50 evolution points and 9 roots for 45 evolution points. That night, something stirred up all the beasts within a 10-mile radius. The animals had a gut feeling, as if they sensed a new king had arrived in the forest. As Ziyu completed his enhancement, his branches grew longer, and his roots became thicker, stronger, and extended further into the ground. With all parts of him upgraded, Ziyu felt immensely powerful, perhaps even overpowered. As Ziyu and the captive animals settled in for the night, another intrusion occurred. The wolves were alerted, sensing that this intruder was one of their own kind. The wolves were startled when they perceived a scary and imposing wolf, capable of intimidating with just a growl. However, it was all a hallucination caused by Ziyu's hallucinogenic ability, as there was no actual threatening wolf. The system notified Ziyu that his hallucinogenic ability had been upgraded to level 2, making its effects even stronger. Interestingly, even a cow was affected by this enhancement, as it hallucinated playing with a small animal. Ziyu's branch and roots ascended to level 1, in addition to the upgrade of his 2 new skills. Unfortunately, he couldn't enhance his innate talent because he only had 14 evolution points left, far from the 50 points required. Ziyu was also amazed by the extension of his main route to 100 meters underground, a sign of his increased strength. This enhancement also allowed him to sense all the spiritual powers flowing within him, deepening his connection to his abilities. Ziyu could sense unknown substances through his extended roots, which he believed to be the Sprite River. However, he chose to conceal his 9 roots, considering their significant growth might startle the girls. But then the Falcons returned from their mission to investigate the snake's traces, relaying all the details to Ziyu. Despite their communication being beyond human language, Ziyu could understand them. Ziyu suspected that the snake must be healing from the damage it had taken. He instructed his falcons to search again, anticipating that the snake would likely return after experiencing the effects of his essence of life. The next day, the wolves started howling and barking again, much to Ziyu's annoyance. He responded by giving them a single whip. Ziyu scolded the wolves to stop their yelling, expressing his annoyance. However, the girls caught him in the act and scolded Ziyu for what they saw as bullying the captive animals. Ziyu was surprised when Xiaoking scolded him for bullying the wolves, calling them too cute for that. He felt a bit nervous as Xiaoking boldly went into the wolves' cage to check on them. Xiaoking showed her kind nature by preparing a bandage for the wolf's wound. However, the wolf remained wary and had trust issues as Xiaoking approached him. Xiaoking apologized and assured the wolf that it wouldn't be hurt again. This gesture calmed the wolf, and it relaxed, recognizing Xiaoking's kindness. Ziyu was surprised that Xiaoking managed to calm the wolves without using any powers or intimidation. Meanwhile, a capybara-like animal caught Xiaoling off guard as it attempted to steal beef jerky from her. Ziyu swiftly captured the troublesome capybara-like animal. Xiaoling was surprised to see how the animal resisted Ziyu's attempts to capture it with his branch. Xiaoling showed her kindness by offering her beef jerky to the capybara-like animal. As they bonded over the tasty treat, a connection formed between them. And in return, Xiaoling received a gift from the capybara-like animal resembling a rock. She also showed kindness to the cow by offering it an apple to eat. The atmosphere took on a sweet and pleasant tone as Ziyu observed the girl's kindness towards animals, even those with troublesome behavior. Ziyu felt speechless, reflecting on his own approach of being the stern one in handling the captive animals. Ziyu recognized the value of having the girls as his allies, akin to the ancient bond between humans and tamed animals. He also realized the tension he had been carrying since his reincarnation as a tree in the heart of the forest. Ziyu found it refreshing to relax occasionally, but he remained unaware that his enemy was lurking, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. As Ziyu relished his time with the girls and animals, the snake was lurking nearby, preparing for its inevitable rematch with him. Half a month went by, and the world retained its peaceful atmosphere. The girls were thrilled about their upcoming visit to Ziyu's forest turf. The girls' grandfather cautioned them to be careful as they frequented the forest. However, the villagers were delighted to see the girls cheerful, as it marked a positive change since their father's passing. However, the girls' grandfather became curious about their attachment to visiting the forest. Meanwhile, despite the presence of strange animals, the forest continued to be peaceful. But Ziyu appeared to be coming down with a cold from resting in his turf. He also suspected that the fox was away picking up the girls again, given its absence from his presence. Ziyu felt a twinge of jealousy seeing how close the girls had grown to the fox over the past half-month. Meanwhile, the fox was surprised to find the girls gathering for their usual pickup. The fox was overjoyed to see the girls giggling in his presence and hugging him tightly. The girls held on to the fox tightly as they rode to Ziyu's turf. Xiaoking felt strange when Xiaoling told her that she had bought fertilizers for Ziyu. Xiaoking covered her nose when she realized that the fertilizer Xiaoling had bought for Ziyu was actually poop. Xiaoling genuinely thought that the poop fertilizer was a good idea, even though Xiaoking found it strange. Meanwhile, Xiaoking observed the heavy clouds, indicating that rain might be on the way. But all of a sudden, the snake finally revealed itself for revenge as the fox hastened to reach Ziyu's turf. The fox remained vigilant, knowing that the snake posed a threat. The girls sensed an eerie feeling, almost as if the snake was as powerful as Ziyu. Without delay, the snake launched its attack on the girls and the fox. The vision turned bloody and blurred as the girls sought to escape, with the fox shielding them. At the same time, the falcons were on a mission to defend their turf. The falcons didn't hesitate when they sensed giant bees trying to invade their territory. However, these mutated bees had large, sharp mouths and shields covering their eyes. But of course, Ziyu swiftly took action alongside his falcons to eliminate the bees. The bees were caught off guard by Ziyu's roots, which were as fast as the wind as they attacked. Ziyu ensured that he remained the ruler of his turf, preventing any other animals from entering. But Ziyu saw the bees as an opportunity to gain evolution points and devised a plan to lure and defeat them, considering it a perfect strategy. Ziyu managed to eliminate all the giant bees with a single strike, which also earned him some evolution points. He found it amusing to see how surprised the cow was at witnessing his combat prowess. Ziyu didn't want to take all the credit and expressed his gratitude to his falcon friends for their assistance. In return, and shared some of his essence of life with them as a token of gratitude. Ziyu felt proud of nurturing the falcons as they grew strong, reaching level 7. With 100 evolution points, the system notified him that he could upgrade his roots. But Ziyu found it very expensive to upgrade his roots to level 2, which required 100 evolution points. However, he eventually decided to go through with the upgrade, despite the cost. As usual, after enhancing his roots, Ziyu felt a massive impact within his body. His roots began berserking, giving him a sensation like he was being electrified. Ziyu's roots, which were once red, turned black after the upgrade, resembling the shedding of a snake's skin. Ziyu's roots became darker, with smaller roots growing on them, while the cow was flabbergasted to see Ziyu become stronger than ever. The wolves were speechless at Ziyu's transformation, realizing he wasn't someone to mess with. Similarly, the capybara-like animal seemed to forget its troublesome behavior, reacting with surprise to Ziyu's change. On the other hand, Ziyu felt intense pressure after his enhancement, sensing it as a sign urging him to grow stronger. Despite the discomfort, he believed he could now confront mutated beasts, considering the strength and thickness of his roots. Ziyu then decided to extend his roots outside his turf. Ziyu managed to catch multiple animals with a single root in one swift movement. His extended roots caught multiple animals, including a pair of pigs in a romantic moment from afar. The view, with his elongated and terrifying roots, resembled a scene from a horror movie. However, Ziyu couldn't deny the good harvest he got with a single root, nearly covering the entire jungle. He felt like a wealthy man and got excited about facing his nemesis, the snake. But for his first plan, he made his roots form a circle to sense any nearby danger in advance. Meanwhile, the capybara-like animal attempted to resist once again. Ziyu promised the capybara-like animal that the girls would bring him food later, and he would let it go if it were obedient. However, Ziyu was puzzled as to why the girls and the fox hadn't arrived yet, especially with the snake lurking nearby, ready to attack the defenseless girls and the fox. Ziyu waited patiently for the fox and the girls to arrive, even though it was getting dark. As time passed, he grew worried and ordered his falcons to search for them everywhere in the jungle. However, the fox arrived just before the falcons could fly off to search for the girls. But the fox was severely injured and covered in blood. Ziyu got goosebumps seeing the fox struggling so badly. Ziyu tried to make sense of what happened, but the fox kept coughing and couldn't move an inch. Without any hesitation, Ziyu used 3 of his branches to give the fox his essence of life. Ziyu was deeply concerned as to why the fox was all alone, and he didn't know about the girl's whereabouts while he treated the fox. And all of a sudden, the snake appeared from afar. Ziyu's instincts heightened as he glanced up, immediately detecting the presence of the snake nearby. Ziyu's heart sank as he noticed something unusual, a feeling of impending danger gripping him tightly. Because from afar, he witnessed the snake carrying Zayoking's defenseless body. A mix of sadness and fury welled up inside him, making his blood boil as he glared at the snake without blinking. The snake showed no mercy, treating Zayoking as if she were just another meal. Ziyu refused to believe it at first, but as he examined closer, the wounds and blood confirmed his worst fears. The snake's demeanor seemed almost gleeful, as if it relished the opportunity to provoke Ziyu and get under his skin. The snake, with a cruel twist, flung Zayoking into the air, clearly intending to devour her. Without a moment's hesitation, Ziyu sprang into action, extending his roots with lightning speed. He reached out as fast as he could to snatch Zayoking from the air before the snake could harm her. The snake, caught off guard by Ziyu's swift action, felt a surge of fear as it sensed his formidable presence. But Ziyu wasted no time, delivering a powerful punch to the snake before it could make any move towards Zayoking. Ziyu's rage boiled to the surface as he warned the snake, threatening it to never lay a finger on Zayoking again. Despite his anger, Ziyu's priority was clear as he caught Zayoking safely. Ziyu swiftly moved Zayoking away from the snake, ensuring she was out of harm's reach. Meanwhile, as the snake devoured Ziyu's branches, its appearance underwent a dramatic transformation, and it seemed to gain a significant surge of energy. Originally, the snake had planned to exact revenge on Ziyu when they crossed paths again, but it hadn't anticipated Ziyu's newfound strength. Realizing it was outmatched, the snake, being the coward it was, chose to retreat once more, knowing it couldn't stand against Ziyu's power. Ziyu then carefully placed Zayoking back on the ground. She appeared severely harmed, teetering on the edge of death, prompting Ziyu to act quickly to save her. Ziyu's worry deepened, feeling like his world had been flipped upside down by Zayoking's condition. Without a moment's delay, he used his branches to administer his essence of life to Zayoking. Ziyu's determination knew no bounds as he continued to infuse Zayoking with all the power he had, despite the lack of vital signs detected by the system. The system prompted him to decide whether to continue, but Ziyu was resolute, willing to sacrifice his evolution points without hesitation if it meant saving Zioking. Ziyu pleaded with Zioking, pouring all his energy into her and urging her to wake up. Even the wolves and the monkey, who had grown fond of Zioking for her kindness, shared Ziyu's concern and watched anxiously. In a state of distress, Ziyu's emotions overflowed as he sternly ordered the animals to be silent, his focus solely on saving Zioking. Despite his relentless efforts, injecting her with his essence of life yielded no change in the grim diagnosis of no vital signs detected. Despite Ziyu's fervent efforts and pouring all his energy into Zioking, she remained unresponsive, her condition unchanged. The cow and the fox, deeply attached to Zioking, joined Ziyu in praying for her recovery, their hearts heavy with worry and hope. Despite everyone's prayers and efforts, it was a tragic outcome as Zioking showed no signs of life or improvement. The wolves, sensing the gravity of the situation, fell silent, their howls replaced by a somber stillness as they mourned for Zioking. The capybara-like animal and the monkey, usually lively, also fell into a solemn silence, recognizing the severity of the situation. Meanwhile, Ziyu, overwhelmed with grief and anger, watched as his evolution points dwindled to 0, feeling like he had exhausted all his strength. Meanwhile, Xiaoling's rescue brought a brief glimmer of hope, but it quickly turned to despair when it became apparent that her condition mirrored Zioking's. Their grandfather was devastated upon hearing from the doctor that the poison had spread throughout Xiaoling's brain and heart, leaving little chance for recovery. The villagers, overcome with concern and sympathy, gathered at Xiaoling's hospital bedside. The villagers expressed heartfelt apologies to the grandfather for not being able to locate Zioking in the forest. The grandfather's heart sank as the villagers speculated that Zioking might have fallen prey to the beast, a thought that felt like the world crashing down on him. Meanwhile, the falcon kept a close watch on Xiaoling to assess her condition. The falcon, usually stoic and composed, couldn't hide its distress at seeing the dire state of the two sisters. Learning about Xiaoling's condition through the falcon's report only fueled Ziyu's anger further. The capybara-like animal, deeply moved by Xiaoling's kindness towards him, couldn't hold back its tears. Ziyu, initially believing in the emotions of all living beings, including plants, saw firsthand the depth of connection and empathy. However, this incident with Zioking and Xiaoling's condition will leave a lasting impact on Ziyu. All their animal friends, especially Ziyu, had joined forces. Ziyu's emotions boiled over with anger. The desire for revenge burned within him, driving his determination to confront the heartless snake. With anger propelling them forward, Ziyu and his loyal animal friends were united in their determination to seek justice.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe. And if you'd like to contribute further, you can now buy me a coffee. Every little bit helps in creating more quality content for you. Just click the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description below. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video.